Hey there, I'm Gavin Steele, and I'm going to be taking you through today's PST Tuts screencast tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at Constantin's how to create a dark surreal illustration in Photoshop. And you can see this brilliant final image down here. And you can see we've got a couple of elements on here. We've got these windmills, this dune in the background. We've got a floating hot air balloon over here. We've got some textural grass at the front. And we've got this this lady here in some kind of pose with some bubbles coming across her and whatnot. So we're going to try and bring all that together and hopefully create an image that resembles something like this one. Now there are lots and lots of files and links to link to in this to get those images. Obviously there's a link for each of the individual elements, so don't forget to check those out. Don't forget to check out all the other videos in our section. And this is a collaboration actually that Constantin's done with Toma down here, and this is his DeviantArt site, and you can see he's got his finished product over on his page. And these are the images that we use throughout the tutorial, so don't forget to check them out. And some sand, the balloons, and we actually use a hairbrush. So make sure you check that out, download that, install it, and get it going. You're also going to need a Photoshop plugin called Topaz Labs, I think that's how you say it, Topaz Labs, Adjustment version 2.6. Now I've just used the 30-day free trial for Mac. They've also got one for Windows. I know lots of people don't like tutorials where you don't have free stock images or you don't have all the elements there, but there is a 30-day free trial, so be sure to check that out if you want to do this tutorial. If not, then I'm sure there's some other ways of getting the final image. But I'm going to be using that today just because I've never seen it before and I want to try it out. So let's get started. Let's load up Photoshop and see what I've got in there already. I've got the sand layer image in the background, and on top of that I have this image of grass. Okay, and this cool little fence or gate. So I've just put that straight in the middle of the canvas there. And I've cut out already all of my other elements that I'm going to be using in this tutorial, just to save a bit of time. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to duplicate our layer 6, our grass layer. So Command J, do it a couple of times, V on the keyboard so you're in the move tool, and we're going to start to move out the ones on the layers below. So I'm just going to move it all the way to the right. I'm going to bring that down one and grab my next layer and move that just so it covers that post. And then finally this one here. Okay, then what we're going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer, so I'm going to hold down Alt and just drag that all the way over like so. Going to grab this layer, duplicate that so it just covers that post, and then finally the second layer here, again just so it covers that post. Now once you've done that, what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in and we're going to start to use the eraser tool and the cloning tool to start to blend this grass area. We're not too worried about the trees in this area because we're going to make the grass look like it's going into the sand dune. So what we're going to do is on each of these layers we're going to erase a bit of the edge that's joining up between the layer and the layer below. So I'm just going to grab my auto select here. I'm going to select this layer. I'm going to select my eraser tool, pressing E on the keyboard, and I'm going to grab a nice soft brush, bring that down, and then I'm just going to practice on the area at the top because that doesn't really matter. That looks like it's going to be fine. And you can see I'm just smoothing out the edge just a bit there, and then again I'm going to select my next layer, grab the eraser tool, just blending the tiny little edge. In fact, I'm just going to zoom in. Okay, it looks pretty good. And then I'm going to grab our top layer and then the eraser tool again. And again, just smoothing that out. like so. And because we're on this top layer, I can just do this side straight away. Okay, looks pretty good. V on the keyboard, select the next layer, E again. I'm just going to erase the side, and then V again. Okay, don't worry if you get a bit of that, the bench coming in there. That doesn't matter too much. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, we're going to select all of those, and we're going to merge them together. Then we're going to go over here, and we're going to grab the clone tool, hold down Alt, grab a nice bit of grass, nice big brush, and again, every now and again just selecting another area as we go. Okay, we don't want it to start to look too uniform. Okay, that looks pretty good. You can't really see that there's a blend there. Let's just zoom in, have a closer look. Nope, there's no harsh lines or anything like that. So that looks pretty good. And over here we can just see a little bit of lining coming up, so I'm just going to zoom out. Again, with the clone tool. Okay, so you get something that you're happy with. Once we've done that, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out this tree area, and we're going to use the pen tool to do that. So P on the keyboard, or come over here to the pen tool, and we're just going to zoom in, or zoom out actually. Yep, okay, grab the pen tool, going to start on this edge over here, and just come along. Doesn't have to be too precise because we're going to start to blend this area in with the sand. And again, just coming along. Like so. Okay, I'm just going to zoom out just so I make sure I get that edge. And again, back to the pen tool. And then you can just close that off. Right click, make it a selection. Make sure you got a feather set to 0. Click on OK. And then just going to hit delete. And then Command D should deselect that for you. And we'll zoom back in and have a look. And obviously it's too harsh a line right now to look like it's part of the same image. But we're going to play around now. We're going to start, erasing that area and start to blend it in. So let's go over to our eraser tool. Let's set the brush for the eraser tool to any of these here between, let's say, 60 and 23. Just choose one. And a couple of cuts here and there. And again, change the brush. Choose this 44. Okay, I'm just going to change the angle of my brushes, so just want to get more of that edge. Yep, that looks pretty good. Again, just coming in. Go back up, let's grab the 36. You can see we're starting to get a nice little breakaway effect here. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit more. And these just look like tufts of grass coming from the side. So I'm going to move this over to the right and we can do this last little area over here. Okay, so we get something that looks something like that. And obviously the more you play around with it, the more you cut out and spend time, you're going to get a really nice effect of that blending across. But don't worry too much about it for now. We're going to apply lots and lots of effects to it along the way, lighting effects that are really going to make it, stand out and look really good. So once you've got rid of the grass in the top half, the next thing we need to do is we're going to import our windmill images. Now, as I said before, I've already cut those out and I've stuck them on like so. And again, check out all the pen tutorials. I just used the pen tool, went along the edges, around the blades and down, made that selection, cut it and brought it straight in. And I've just positioned it like in the tutorial, going up this bank here on the dune and then obviously going down, disappearing behind the dune. You could even add another one down here as if it's over the other side of the dune. But for now, that's all I'm going to do. So once they're in, you need to head over to the burn tool, which is this one right here, O on your keyboard, and just darken the area at the base of each of these. Okay. Like so. Okay, and then just as you can see around here, go back to the sand layer, kind of zoom in a little bit, just darken it just a little bit. Okay, and zoom out. I'm just going to add to the shadow a little bit later. And speaking of shadows, we need to add a shadow for these that are standing out a little bit too sharply there. So I'm going to duplicate this layer. So Command J. I'm going to transform it. I'm going to bring it down to just about where I want it to be. Use the keyboard here just to nudge them into this line. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then what we're going to do is we're going to command click on that layer and we're going to fill this with a black color. So head over to your bucket tool. Let's create a new layer. Actually, we can do it in this layer. Okay, so fill that in. Actually, no, let's create that new layer. Fill it in. Turn the other layer off underneath. And then deselect. Let's bring the opacity right down. So it looks like a shadow. And then Command T, right click on your selection and we're going to warp it. So it looks like it's actually coming up and over. Okay, and then hit enter, grab the eraser tool. We can just get rid of these areas like so. And we're going to do exactly the same. Command J, duplicate that layer, transform it. We're going to bring these right down. And again, command click on them, new layer, and fill it with black. Turn off the layer underneath, deselect. Let's check out the opacity for that previous layer was 36. Let's reduce that to something similar. And then Command T, right click, and we're going to warp this as well. Enter, and then just drag that right the way down to the bottom, so that it is behind our layer. And again, Command T, and we're just going to shuffle this down. We just need to make sure. In fact, let's undo that. Turn off my auto select there. Okay, I'm just going to warp it one more time just to make sure that they look like they kind of line up. Grab the eraser tool again. Just going to take off these bits up at the top here. In fact, I don't think this one's going to need a shadow. Okay, that looks pretty good. Again, you might want to just play around with the opacity, just lower it ever so slightly. And same again for this layer here. Okay, I'm pretty much happy with that. So once you've got those in, you've burnt around the sides and you've made your shadow layers, the next thing we need to do is we're going to import the balloon. And again, I've already got that, I've brought that in. Again, I just cut around that using the pen tool. Now, create a new layer above the balloon layer. And we're going to add 2 little dots using our brush tool, a nice soft brush. So let's find a nice soft brush. Okay, and the first color we're going to use is C1 01 A4. Nice pink color. Let's reduce this in size. We're just going to put that there. We're going to grab the color tool again, and this time we're going to do 0984 BF. Click on OK, come to the other side of the balloon and just put that on like so. Set this to multiply and then reduce it down to about 50%. Okay, you've got to keep looking at your image just to see, because when I say 50% on mine, it might not, you know, if you've chosen a different image or something like that, you've got to just see if how well it blends into the background, if those colours just get picked up just a little bit on the edges of the balloon there. Okay, the next thing to do is to go and grab the image of the girl and import her, shrink her down or expand her into your image so that you get something that looks like this. So if I just zoom in on our girl, okay, you can see that she was leaning on a chair, but that chair's now gone, so we need to find another bit to add in there. So all we're going to use is, from our bottom layer, is we're going to grab a bit of wood. I'm just going to copy that, put it onto its own layer, paste it, and let's have a look at how that looks. Okay, that looks pretty good. Real simple little thing there, just putting that into place. Now, I'd like her dress to cover the edge of this area down here. So I'm going to go back to the girl. I'm just going to transform her, and I'm going to warp just this bottom area. Like so, and click enter. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Now you can also see, if I zoom in a little bit more, I've missed out this little bit of the chair. So to get rid of that, we can just quickly use the clone tool. Like so, and then just zoom back out and let's have a look. Okay, so once she's in position, once you've got the girl in position, the next thing that we need to do is we need to duplicate it. So Command J when you've got the layer selected. We're going to desaturate it, so head up to Image, Adjustments, and then Desaturate. We're going to place this layer behind our original. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to set it to Hard Light and reduce that down to 75%. Then we're going to do Command T, and we're going to warp this. So right click, click on the warp tool, and we're just going to bring it up to the right, and we're going to bring it back just a bit, like so, and then hit enter. Okay, so once you've done that, we're going to use our lasso tool. We're going to break up the parts of her dress. So I'm going to zoom into that area. Now we've done this on quite a few of the tutorials recently. Just zoom out just a bit so I can see where these bits are going to be going. And again, grab the lasso tool, go back to our original layer, and just circle, command, and start to move these bits. There we go. Just keep taking off all of these, all of these little bits, so it just looks like just a little bit of breaking. Make sure you get the little scissors on your mouse pointer. Okay, I'm just going to start to bring this up just a little bit more. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. And then I'm just going to zoom out. And then we've got her dress just breaking away ever so slightly. Right, the next thing that we need to do is we're going to add her hair, some crazy hair. So head over to the brush tool, and hopefully you've downloaded those brushes. You might have had them from a previous project. I seem to have them already. So I'm going to make these larger thumbnails just so we can see. And then let's have a quick look. Lots of paint splatters, birds. Where are we? Oh, there we go. So I've got these hair brushes. Just click on one. Make sure you've got black selected as your color. And then obviously reduce the size of the brush right down. Make sure you're on the original layer and just click on like that. And again, choose a different brush, reduce it right down. And if your brush is facing the wrong way, don't forget, bring in your brush palette, and you can get it facing the way that you want it to. And again, just build up the hair until you get something that you know that you're happy with. Okay, looks pretty good. Just going to fill in this area down here with these last little bits. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's have a zoom in. Yeah, that looks fairly natural, although rather crazy, but it looks pretty good. And again, we can do exactly the same thing. We can go back in, desaturate that layer, and so on, and get the same effect as the background. But I like it like that. I like it nice and strong. So once you've done that, and you've played around with your hair, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some bubbles. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add some rain. So let's zoom out. Okay, and before we do that, we're going to create a little layer here. We're going to grab some colors, excuse me, from around the picture. So I'm going to set this. We're going to go back up to our big soft brushes. We're going to grab a blue from, let's get something like that, 2760 CD, and then go back to my brush tool, and on this new layer, fill that in like so. We're going to set this layer to multiply, and we're going to reduce it down to about 75%. You can see it just adds a bit of color to those clouds. And again, we're going to grab we're going to grab a bit of pink. Let's go up here and go back to our brush tool. Just to lighten up this area down here. And then we're going to grab the eye, drop her and grab the green, back to our brush. And we're just darkening some of these areas around here with the colour, just like little splashes of colour popping up. Okay, once you've done that, now we can start to find and use the bubble brush. Now, the bubble brush comes with the PSD file. I'm just going to show you what it looks like down here. And if you're a Plus member at PSD Touch, you can get it for free, or you can have a play around with creating your own. They're literally just circles with little bits out of them. So if I change that to white, make sure I'm 100% for everything, create a new layer. I'm going to do a rather large one first, just so you can see what it is. And it's just a faint circle with some little smaller circles inside. Okay, so we're going to start to apply them from left. And then coming down the back. Like so. And once you've done that, we're going to then duplicate that layer, head up to filter, we're going to go to blur, and we're going to apply a motion blur, and we're going to set that motion blur to 50 degrees and 25 pixels as I've got it set there. And we're going to click on OK. Command L, bring up our levels palette. In fact, let's just make sure we set that to lighten. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to start to think about now bringing in the rain. And the rain, really nice technique. We're going to go up to filter, we're going to create a layer, fill it with black, and add the filter. So what we need to do next, okay, actually we need to add some shadow to make these bubbles, these floating bubbles, look like they're actually floating where we want them to look like they're floating, which is actually just in front of her. So to do that, we're going to make sure we click on our layer, and we're going to go up to drop shadow, and we're going to set that to be multiply. I'm just going to move this to the side just to show you here, and the opacity is 57. You can increase that just a little bit, just so we can start to see the bubbles showing up down at the bottom. And to get them there, we set the angle to 90 degrees. The distance, just play around with it. You can see, just move it around till it hits the ground just at the right spot, and then increase the size or decrease the size depending on how detailed you want it to look. That's it. Click on OK. Then we're going to create this new layer. We're going to fill it with black, and we're going to head up to filter, noise, add a bit of noise. 86% seems pretty good. Click on OK. Go to filter, blur, and we're going to go to motion blur. Have that set to an angle of 50 and distance set to 25 pixels. And then we're going to click on OK. Okay, once you've done that, the next thing we need to do is Command L, and we're just going to increase our input here, and we're going to increase that to 100. Click on OK, and you can see that just breaks that up a little bit, blends some of that in, and then we're going to set that to screen, and we should get some really nice rain. And there we go. So I'm just going to zoom out just a little bit, I'm going to hit Command T. Just going to rotate it so it's coming down at less of an angle, and then just make sure everywhere it gets a good covering of rain. And then hit enter, and we can zoom back in, and you can see that looks pretty cool. Okay, next thing we need to do is save this as a JPEG. So head over to Save As. Sandgirl's fine. Let's just call it a JPEG. Okay, click Save. Click on OK, and then we're going to close this one down. And I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to go find that file. There it is. Brilliant. Alright, next thing we need to do is to use that filter that I told you about at the start of the tutorial that we had to download. It's a 30-day free trial. It seems to let me do anything I want with it, or at least for this tutorial anyway. So to get the image ready for using that, we're going to hit Command L, bring up our levels, and we're going to make sure they're set to 8, 1.0, and 255. Click on OK. We're going to go Image, Adjustments, and then play around with the exposure. We're going to set that to 0.37. Click on OK. And then we're going to go Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. We're going to set that to be 3 for the hue, -17 for the saturation, and 0 for the lightness. And then we're going to head up to Filter and Topaz Labs. If you've never installed a filter before, just double click on it while you've got Photoshop and open on the side, and it should install itself. Close down Photoshop. When you log back in, you should get this little name down here with this pop out for Topaz Adjustments. It's not going to fit on the screen I've got here, but all I'm using is one of the presets, and that is called Portrait Drama, Hard Edged Dramatic Portrait Effect. So if I apply the preset and then click on OK, you can see that it's just darkened the edge of the rain, of the image, of everything else. It just, I don't know, it really adds to it. It looks really, really good. So you don't have to use that. I'm sure you can play around with the levels and the curves to get something similar or some of the other filters, but it's a nice, quick and easy way to get that effect. Right, we're going to move on now. So what we need to do is we need to duplicate that layer, because now we've only got one layer because it's a JPEG file. So duplicate it, Command L, go into the levels. We're going to decrease this down to 244. Click on OK. We're then going to create a new layer, and we're going to give that a color fill. So head to New Fill Layer, Solid Color. Click on OK. We're going to set that color to OF6465. Click on OK. Set it to Color Dodge and reduce it down to 65%, and reduce the fill right down to 37, maybe even just a little bit less. Okay, looks pretty good. Then we're going to flatten the image, so just going to select all those layers, click on Flatten Image, head over to Image Adjustment, Color Balance. There we go. We're going to set that to 0, -33, 0. Click on OK. We're going to go up to Image Adjustments again, Selective Color, which we're going to use quite a bit. We can set red to 45. Everything else can be left at 0. We're then going to go to blacks, and we're going to set that to 0, 0, 12, and then 14. We're then going to come up to white, and we're going to set white to 0, 0, 74, 0. And finally the neutrals, we're going to set to 0, 0, and 21 at the bottom, -18 for yellow, and I think it's -14 for magenta. Yeah, and we're done. Click on OK. And then we're going to add a new layer. We're going to fill it again, this time with a different color. So a new fill layer, solid color. And this one is going to be OB1A39. Click on OK. We're going to set this layer to lighten. and we're going to flatten the image one more time, then duplicate it again and reduce the fill down to 47 or thereabouts. Okay, we're going to head to filter, render, lighting effects, and we don't want it set the narrow, but that should be okay actually. Make sure you set this to 42, minus 100, minus 100, 0 and 23. Here you've got like a dark cream color, F1 DB85. Here you've got a slightly lighter color, FDF 2A9, and that looks pretty good. We're just going to move this center spot, if we can, up to the top up here. Okay, I'm just going to go back into Spotlight, and we're going to set that to 35. I'm not sure that has any effect, but it's just annoying me a little bit. Okay, no effect whatsoever. Let's move that down just a bit, and we're going to click on OK. Just darkens our image just a little bit around those edges. And the next thing that we need to do once we've rendered that is we're going to make another color selection. So we're going to go to Image, Adjustment, and Selective Color. And this time we're going to set black to be 17 and minus 14. Click on OK. We're going to add some curves. Ooh. So head up to Image, Adjustment, and Curves. Let's bring these over. And again, we're just going to move this just up just a little bit, and then bring this down here, like so. So a fairly shallow kind of arch there. Okay, click on OK. Once we've done that, we're going to duplicate our layer. We're going to go to Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. Lots of adjustments here to get this final image just right. And we're going to set the saturation to minus 100, and lo and behold, oh, that's not quite right. Let's go back a couple of steps. Okay, so we should have flattened this image. And then Control J, head up to Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation, and we're going to set this to minus 100. Click on OK. Right, we're then going to apply some auto levels, so adjustments again, auto levels. Okay, it looks pretty good. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to do Image, Adjustments, we're going to do Selective Color, we're going to do black again, and we're going to set black to about 96. Click on OK, so it's nice and dark. And then we're going to flatten the image. We're going to duplicate it. We're going to do another fill, or actually set the fill to 46. And then we're going to flatten it one more time. And then duplicate it. And then we're going to go to Image, Adjustments one more time, or another time, sorry. And we're going to go to Selective Color again. And this time we're going to set our neutrals to 0, 0, 1. Actually, let's set the black to 6. I'm reading off the wrong sheet there. And minus 6. And 1. And we're going to set our blacks to 5 from the bottom, minus 9, and 0, 0, and click on OK. Another new fill layer. This time we're going to choose a color of 39, 340C. Click on OK. And again, just need to set that to lighten. Actually, it's not lighten, just bear with me. We need to set that to, sorry, it is lighten, and let's reduce that down to just 8%, like so. And then just grab all of these. Let's flatten the image one final time. Head up to image adjustments, and this is the final time. We're going to go down to selective color. We're going to go to neutrals, and we're going to set magenta to -7, yellow to -12, and finally black is going to be set to 24. And click on OK. And that should give you an image that looks something like this. Now, I did race through quite a lot of those settings. They are all over on the website, and obviously you can pause as you go along. There are quite a few selective color adjustments there, and there were a couple of stages where actually when it was in color, it looked, the image actually looked really, really good, and you might not want to take it to this darker color. And I might have gone a little bit too dark on the face. I could have, go back and lighten up some of that. But that's the tutorial. It's creating this really cool effect. Going through the process of adding all those colors and then seeing what effect they have once you make it black and white and so forth. So check out the tutorial by Constantin over at PSD Tuts. Here's his final image. Mine wasn't too far off the final image. And there's a point in his tutorial, if I just bring it up, where he's pretty happy with the way it looks, before we start making it black and white. So you might want to stop at that point with your image because it does look pretty cool, or you might want to go all the way and darken it. So please don't forget to check out the video tutorials in our section on psdtuts.com, and don't forget to check out all of the really cool stock images that have been provided by the people for Constantin's tutorial. I've been Gavin Steele. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. It's another dark one, and I'll see you next time.